Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and before we start the meeting, we're going to do a moment of silence for recognition of the passing of the Queen. Okay, we'll carry on with the meeting. The other thing, I want to welcome Adrian to our council chambers. She's joined us a while ago and she sat as a reporter, but we're pleased to have her part of our team. Okay, with that said, looking for an adoption of the agenda? Councillor Taylor, all those in favor? Okay, and then adoption of the previous council meeting, which was July 12th. Councillor Moore, all those in favor? Always got to look because I want to call you by your first name. Okay, and then so there was no errors or omissions. With that said, we have a delegation from Yellowhead Ag Society presented by Christine Davis, and I believe there's two of you, so if you'd like to join us at the table, please. And I'll just get you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, you betcha.
And do you know all mountain members of council?
No, not yet.
Okay, so I'll get you introduced and then we'll introduce, because we have some new council members. So
Sounds good. I'm Christine Davis and this is Christine Hall, the president.
okay, and I'll start with Councilor Persistent. We'll introduce ourselves to them because they don't know us all.
Councilor Persistent. Councilor Taylor, nice to meet you.
There's a hero, welcome.
Councilor Chenard.
Councilor Byer.
Councilor Moore. Councilor Bevin.
Can carry on with your presentation, please.
Is there a test later?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Multiple choice, it's all good.
It is a test on recycle.
Well, thank you very much for entertaining us here tonight. And as you can see, it's been a while since we've been in the chamber with you here, and it's been several years actually. And of course, over the years, a lot has changed. It's been a very interesting roller coaster since 2019, right? For everybody. So basically what we're doing here is we had approached the council. I'm not sure if all of you were here at that time, back in 2019. And we were in the process of building a new facility for our community out at the rodeo grounds. And that facility was around the ballpark at that time of about $7 million. And we were obtaining the funding and the support from Yellowhead County and town of Edson. And we were so incredibly thankful that the town of Edson came on board and wanted to partner with us on that project. Of course, you know, as you well know, over the last couple of years, things were a little complicated for anything that was rec facility involved. And you know, and the economy was hurting, our sponsors were hurting, and it wasn't really a time to fundraise. So we kind of had to put the project on hold and at that time. Then this spring, we had decided that, you know, it was time to pick it up, start moving forward with this thing and get going again. And unfortunately, right around that time too, we noticed this winter, just the quality of our indoor arena, which our existing arena, was starting to deteriorate a bit. And so the board decided that we had better take a look at it, see what's going on in there, make sure it's safe for our users. And then I shared with you that we did have a air quality test done in there, and sure enough, it's primarily wood constructed. wood in there combined with the dirt and the moisture in the air and condensation and all that fun stuff. And the fact that it's, you know, it was built in 1985, so it's a little aged now. But there was definitely the beginnings of starting to get some mold and some moisture into the wood. Yeah, so basically, we were given the recommendation that it would be a good idea just for air quality purposes to not use the arena and until we can remedy that situation. So, and thankfully it was coming to the end of our busy season. So we chose to shut down the arena and address this issue. So, so basically what it came down to is because, you know, we have a current facility that is heavily used by the public, that, you know, we needed to focus on maintaining and keeping that facility. And then, you know, look towards the future for a new one. Of course, the price of the new one now, thanks to the price of steel increasing, and we even, yeah, wood, we downsized. And, you know, we had our architects downsize and our builder down, or, you know, reprice a smaller building that would be similar function, but still larger than what we have. And even with downsizing, we were able to get it down to 4 million, but it is now 8 million with the new prices. So we're right back up to right where we were again. So, yeah, so basically, and for a much less facility to boot. So basically the board, you know, addressed that primarily our responsibility is to our community, to our users, and that we need to keep a facility operational. So we have approached, you know, we got numerous quotes and input into how to repair the building. And basically what it comes down to is we'll be taking all the wood out and replacing it with a tin feature. So there will be no way that we can have wood or mold or condensation issues again. We'll be putting in, yeah, the air exchanger, and
New ground.
new dirt, exactly, yeah. And so basically rebuilding it and giving it a new life for longer term. And then, you know, several or many years down the road, we'll explore being able to put a new facility up. So, basically that's kind of it in a nutshell of where we're at. So we did go in, and the cost of the repairs came in, or I should say revamping, it's not necessarily repairs, but came in at 456,000. And well, 478,000 for the entire project. However, we have already paid for the new dirt to come in. So we have already contributed 22,000 towards the project, and leaving us with a financing amount of 456,000. The building is currently appraised, or I shouldn't say currently, would have been 2 years, 3 years ago, we had it appraised and it was 1.2 million. And so we do have an appraiser coming back out this Saturday to actually give us a new appraisal amount with the new features, and which we'll need for insurance purposes as well. So, and we'll also know too how much longer that can extend the lifespan of that building for us, so we can plan for the future. And yeah, so with that, ATV has been working on our funding for us. Everything is with the underwriters are getting ready to write the loan for us. But we wanted to come back and see if there was still a chance of being able to partner with the town of Edson and also with Yellowhead County, we're hoping. The one thing that the bank is looking for is they are wanting a municipality to do a limited guarantee. Because we are an ag society under Alberta Agriculture, we are mandated that we are not allowed to actually give guarantees personally for a project or a loan. So it is mandated to us that we must approach municipalities for that purpose. So that's one reason why we're here today, and to see if you would consider that, as well as the town of Edson had committed $400,000 to us for the possible new facility. We were hoping that we could restructure that and maybe you can help us a little bit with keeping our facility operational. And then maybe explore a new facility many years down the road. Yeah, so and just to kind of give you an idea, even though our facility is technically shut down right now, I did run some numbers. And as you may or may not know, our very busy season goes from October till the end of May. And we are already, even though we don't have a facility open, we are already 30% booked for the season, already right from October 1st, right to the end of May. And yeah, so the need is there. We already have 44 events already booked in for the next 9 months and 109 hours based on 360 available hours in there, and they usually fill up pretty fast. We have 6 out of 7 days already booked in. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, you mentioned.
So again, my name is Christine Howard. I took on the new president position back in November. I want to speak more as a user to just let you know how important this arena is for a lot of our members. I am one of a small business that operates out of that arena. I teach primarily equestrian sport. I'm also a competitor in a sport called 3D eventing, which is an Olympic sport. And I highly rely on this facility. The closest facility that I would ever even be able to ride out of is over an hour away. And the price of that is extremely high. I do teach in Stony Plain. I teach all over Alberta, whether it's at competitions or whatever. A lot of my students and friends compete all over Alberta, and a lot of those competitions are also in the winter. So the only way that we can do those competitions is to be able to train all winter. Because I do travel all over the place, we are the most affordable arena anywhere that I've been. We also have other small businesses. Play Rough is a dog training obedience club, and she operates out of our arena. We have like our 4-H. We have our barrel racers who compete all winter. We have people that train out of our arena, who train horses out of our arena. We have people that just like to stay active with their children and family out of our arena. It came down to, this is all we have available to our community and our members, who most of them live within 25 kilometers of Edson. So if we do not repair this arena, we have nothing. And a lot of us will be shut down, which is absolutely devastating for this community. So, and a lot of people that come in, I put on small jumping competitions too. The closest jumping competition or equestrian competition is Stony Plain or at Edmonton. Those are the closest ones. So, and we have people, sometimes we get them out from Stony Plain, and so they're using our community for food, fuel, everything like that. So, we may seem small, but we're huge. And it's so important that we do this. If we can do this repair and refurbish, we practically have a new arena.
I'm just going to interrupt. You got 30 seconds to finalize. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's it in a nutshell. We did want to, come in and I gave you some, a list of our events to show you kind of how busy we are down there. And in 2019, before COVID, we had 429 events in the year of 2019 in that facility. And so it is well used, and without it, we will have many community groups that will have nothing to go to this winter.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Also
Thank you very
apologize.
much. Thank you very much.
I forgot to introduce our town manager, Christine Beveridge, because she would be the lady that you would be corresponding with. So thank you for the information. Unless any council members have a question, we can't give you an answer tonight,
Yeah.
but we will get information and we
Well,
can
thank you very
get
much
back
for
to you.
allowing us to come and speak.
You
We
bet.
appreciate it.
Is there any questions?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your presentation. On your, I've been out there actually quite a few times throughout the whole years and born and raised in Edson, so I
Mhm.
know it very well. Do you guys still, at one time you used to have therapy for especially children and adults. You come and book and out there and they would bring them out there, put them on a horse, and it just
Mhm.
was great to work with them and they just loved it. Do you still offer that at all?
We would, if a group approached us, we
Okay.
would, absolutely.
Yeah, actually Christine is very connected with that kind of thing, both with the health side as well as she has the proper horses. That would be ideal for that. And that was one of our ultimate goals in the new building, was to start a full program for that. And unfortunately, we are still working in our current facility, but we would love to, if somebody has any kind of a contact or something like that, we would love to put something together for sure.
Okay, thank
You
you.
know, I think you'd do well, because I have a granddaughter that is in a wheelchair 24/7, and she goes to another place, or she did and uses it. And with other people, just see the expression on their faces and
Yeah.
how they just come alive. It's just unreal. But if it could be in an enclosed arena all year round, it'd be a lot better. So I think it's
Absolutely.
something maybe you guys should look into.
Most definitely, we will.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Byer.
Well, thanks, through the chair to Christine. Thanks for your presentation. I have two questions, if that's all right. The first one is, do you know what the people that use your facility, do you know what the breakdown is between Town of Edson residents and Yellowhead County residents?
Yeah, actually, I did break that down back in 2019 when we were very busy and our membership was extremely high. And it's still high, but people just didn't buy memberships because they couldn't use the facility, right, over the last 2 years. But yeah, it came down to about 65% Yellowhead County residents and 45% Town of Edson residents. Because it's not primarily ag related, like horses and cows, of course, are there, but we also have huge dog clubs, and a majority of the dog club owners are Town of Edson residents. Yeah, and so we do have lots of people too in the lesson programs. Yeah.
I mean, most of us would be considered Edson. It's just that we have to have acreages in the county. So that makes us county. Yeah.
Fair, and one more question. Thank you for answering that. Have you guys presented to the county as well?
We will be.
We will be, yes. The Yellowhead County has been a little complicated for us through most of the process. Yeah, so we don't have a date set. We have requested a date to meet with them again, and they haven't provided one to us yet. So we're hoping that we can meet with them very soon.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for presenting to us again. I know when you came to us a couple of years ago, it was much brighter times, and we had a huge surplus that year, and we were looking at investing in facilities, and obviously the world has changed a lot.
Yes.
And I think one of the unique challenges that we have as a town council is the ag facility is located in town, but serves mostly the county residents. But agriculture is such an important role for our entire region. So as Councillor Chouinard mentioned, we are not able to give you a decision tonight, but I understand you're on strict timelines. So my question to you is, when would you hope to have an answer by? And would you be able to proceed without a guarantee from the municipality, from the town of Edson? And when you are, and what is the date you guys are going to be presenting to the county?
Okay, yeah, for the date for the county, that's one thing, that is up in the air. Right now, we are kind of, the CAO or CEO, I'm not sure which one they call it there, but they are actually controlling our presentation to the council. And so so he actually wants to prepare the presentation before we can send anything to council. And so I'm waiting for him to get back to me as to what he wants them to see. Yeah, so right now he won't even actually give us a date as to when he wants us to go see them. So we've had, like, they haven't been easy to work with, unfortunately. Yeah, and so we're trying to get over all those little hurdles with them. But they did commit 500,000 to the old, or to the old new facility that we were building 3 years ago. So we're going to approach them with the same similar, ask that we have of you as well, and that's what we're asking of them. And and actually they were more concerned as to why aren't we building the new facility, and basically it's the same reason why Edson is, considering revamping their own rec center instead of building the new one. We're in the same boat, right? We can't afford that new facility right now. And but the loss of a facility has a much higher priority right now. Yeah, so that's one thing. The other, the funding from the bank isn't dependent on your funding to me, or to us, sorry. However, the guarantee is very important, because they do, right now, the bank hasn't said we have to, but they may request a limited guarantee. And so if we have any questions for them, they have asked me to direct that to them, and they would send it to me in writing. So they said, if you have any questions here from the council, they want it in writing, and they will try and address any questions, but they would only do it in writing.
Okay, so just to follow up, so does it have to be the town of Edson, or could it be the county that provides that if they so choose? It doesn't, because you are located within the town limits. I'm not sure if there's a either or situation here. I'm a little nervous about guarantees because we have done that in the past and it hasn't worked out necessarily in our favors. So I'm just throwing that out there just to some clarification.
I did want to throw the financials in there. And the bank has looked at it. We can definitely, debt service ratio, we're great in that regards. And of course, if there was a possibility that you could help us out with 100,000 towards the project, of course, that would, even bring our debt ratio much lower, because our payments would be lower too, right? So we would be financing less amount of money. So they're not worried about covering that. It's just because we are a society. And so they want the municipalities to support this project, right? And so basically that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a financial investment or support or even a cosigner type of thing, right? Yeah.
Did you had a second question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Councilor Taylor and then Councilor Moore.
Yeah, through the mayor, to council of 2019. The presentation, ladies, thank you. You said the town promised 400,000. Was 400,000 set aside at any time, or how did that process occur at that time?
Mr. Chair, if I could speak to that.
Yeah.
So through the Councilor Moore, or sorry, Taylor, the money was from a surplus we had that year. We did have money set aside, but because the project was not moving, we reallocated those funds for other projects at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, you're done. Councilor Moore.
Through the chair to our delegation. At any point, had you received any health concerns from any of the users that about mold or any other thing?
Yeah, there was, including myself.
Right.
I had some problems breathing. We had some users that refused to use it. And they are big users and they had to move on to somewhere else. And yeah, I would say we lost probably 10 steady users to using it. And that's why we spent a lot of money in testing and everything else to see where we're at, and that's why it's closed. right now because it has become a health hazard. And unless these repairs get done, we cannot make it available. It's liability.
Okay, I just have one question first and then we'll go to Councilor Taylor. If you had the funding, how long would the repairs take? So if tomorrow the bank or someone said
Yeah.
yes and you start on repairs, how long would it take? How long before you could be up and functioning?
30 days.
30
Yeah,
days?
yeah, and yeah, we, like I said, our season starts October 1st. Our users have been very gracious to all start their dates mid-October. So they are optimistic that they will be able to get in there next month. And so we basically need to hit the ground really quick.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Taylor.
Through the chair, Councilor Bernard did ask my question. So ladies, I do want to thank you for your presentation and certainly sympathize with the process and obviously, as Councilor Sharp said, we don't want an answer for you tonight. We have to discuss it. I'm always in favor of enhancing facilities. We just got to look at other things. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or if you need to go, you can leave if you like now, or you can stay and enjoy the meeting.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to email them over or for the bank. Like she said, they'll be happy to answer any
We'll
questions you have.
correspond to our town manager, but yes, I apologize for the news, and she will help you out.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have no reports, so we're going to E2 infrastructure and planning bylaw, and that is, I'm horrible at names, so sir, if you could come forward. Kundi, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Kundi, if I can get you to step forward, your presentation on economical development officer, and you were doing presentation on
Business license.
business license. I'm looking at my agenda, it doesn't tell me that. So carry on. There's what I'm looking for.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here to discuss the rewrite of the business license bylaw. So beyond just the rewrite of the bylaw itself, our approach in making these changes to the business license bylaw was geared to be all-encompassing of all the elements that have to do with business licensing. First and foremost, we seek to bring alignment between the proposed bylaw with other bylaws and statutes of the municipality. It was all aimed toward remodeling our business licensing processes in the hopes of streamlining our workflow to make it easier for both our staff and businesses to obtain the information that they need and to as well easily issue a business license. Last but not least, part and parcel to the business license bylaw rewrite is to update our business license forms to better provide us the insights that we need to be better informed about our business community. So regarding the proposed key changes, we are proposing the removal of the business licensing regulations for taxi service providers, mobile home park operators, pawnbrokers, and secondhand dealers, which will instead be addressed through the land use bylaw as amended. The removal of home occupation businesses from the business license bylaw, which as well will be addressed through the land use bylaw as amended. The removal of escort service provisions, including the attached fees within the business license bylaw, with the consideration that this as well be addressed in the land use bylaw or otherwise be treated as any other business in Edson. Speaking to other key changes, we propose the addition of third-party referrals and consultations in being a part of our approval process. In that regard, prior to issuing or renewing a business license, the business license inspector may refer a business license application to a third party during the approval process, which may include organizations like the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission, any regional health authority, such as Alberta Health Services and any other such organizations. Additionally, we also propose that all businesses be required to have a business license, including those that are fee exempt. So such businesses would include charitable, nonprofit organizations, and any other organizations excluded from the requirements of the proposed bylaw by an act or a statute, legislation of other provincial statute. Additionally, we propose a provision that where a person intends to carry on a business at a specific business premise within the town, the person must ensure that all necessary approvals required under the land use bylaw have been obtained, and that confirmation of such approvals is provided to the business license inspector prior to the business license being issued or renewed. Another provision is for the right of appeal, whereby in every case where an application for business license has been refused, revoked, suspended, or has been issued but subject to conditions, the applicant has the right to appeal this decision. In doing so, the appeal process requires that it be addressed to legislative services and must be delivered to legislative services within 10 days of the date that the applicant is first notified of the decision. The last key addition is a provision for business license renewals, which would allow for a business license to be renewed up to 60 days before the date of which it expires, and within 30 days after the date of which it expires. If a business license is not renewed within 30 days after the date of which it expires, then the business is deemed invalid, and the business will not be permitted to operate within the town limits until the issuance of a new business license. Other additions of note include the introduction of 2 new business license types: the seasonal business license and the temporary business license, which we thought would better accommodate the various forms of business activities within our community. To that end, a seasonal business license refers to a business providing goods or services required in relation to a certain season in the year. So with this addition, a seasonal business must not exceed 4 consecutive months and can only be obtained once a year. The types of businesses we thought would make use of this are businesses like mobile business units, snow removal service companies, outdoor business classes, landscaping, and so on. Whereas a temporary license would refer to a license to conduct business in the town of Edson for a period of up to 7 days or less, and as well can only be obtained once a year. Another point of note is the proposed fee schedule, which will see us introducing a pro-rating system whereby business license fees for new businesses will be paid quarterly per annum. 100% of the fee for business licenses received within January 1st and March 30th. 75% of the fee for licenses received April 1st and June 30th. 50% of the fee for July 1st to September 30, 25% of the fee for October 1st to December 31st. Another fee schedule proposal would be for the increase of our business license fees. Based on some research of regional fee comparators, where we looked at other similar sized communities to that of this, it was quite clear that our fees fall quite below the benchmark. And so we proposed a phased-in approach in increasing our business license fees, which would see us charging $100 and $200 for resident and non-resident businesses, respectively, in this coming year in 2023. And then increasing those fees once again in 2024 to 150 resident businesses and 300 for non-resident businesses, which will pretty much fall in line with what we're seeing regionally. So part of our implementation plan in the next coming months, as we transition to this new bylaw, will be to send out a letter to our business owners after this committee of the whole session, informing them of what's being proposed and encouraging them to come out to the public engagement that we accept. Then to make the necessary website updates and social media messaging to promote more engagement from the community. Then we would hold that public engagement session on September 26th, Chamber of Commerce building, and invite members of the business community to partake in that, followed by a key message briefing and FAQs, following a third reading by council. Coming into the month of November, we will then begin sending out renewal letters attached with updated business license forms for them to send back to us. And then effective January 1st, 2023, the new fees would now be in effect, and subsequently followed by another round of renewal notices to our businesses. Last but not least, it's also worth noting that by January 31st, all unpaid business licenses will be deemed invalid until the issuance of a new business license. Which now leaves us with items for future consideration. The first, intermunicipal business license bylaw. So under the Red Tape Reduction Statutes Amendment Act, municipalities are now able to establish an intermunicipal business license to make it easier for mobile businesses to operate across the province and reduce the costs and administration involved in applying for licenses in each community that they occupy. This initiative is something we have discussed amongst ourselves, and it certainly is an item for consideration, contingent on how other communities feel about it. Another consideration is more an issue of compliance, which would be to provide businesses a temporary grace period to allow them to provide us all the documents and approvals that they need for their operation, which will provide us the assurance that our businesses has been conducted in the right way. And on our end, we'll just we'll try to make it easier for them to get those documents and come to some arrangement that would deem it to make sense. And that pretty much sums up the majority of the changes that we're proposing in this license bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor Byer.
Thanks, through the chair to Kundi. Thanks for the presentation. I was really pleased to see it on the agenda, and as I read through it, I really like some of the changes that you're proposing. And thank you for the comparison to the other municipalities. I did not realize that we are low. That's pretty incredible, really. A question regarding those fees. I don't operate a business, nor do I operate one in another municipality. Are there different levels of services associated with those fees? Like I think Canmore had like $500 a year. Are they providing additional services to their businesses? With that, I noticed in the application, you've got a few check boxes about if someone wants, you know, a newsletter and workshops and stuff. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, please?
No, for sure. Through the mayor to Councilor Byer. So, so I guess an aspect of us reworking the business license bylaw was to focus on business license forms, which would provide us the information that we need. And so I'm pretty sure the municipalities do the same thing, depending on what sort of information you're looking for. But regardless of that, when it comes to the fees that people charge, typically they look at what's within their surrounding areas. So, you know, for the city of Brooks or Drumheller, or whichever location they're in, I'm pretty sure that guy's pretty much contingent on maybe other fees that apply for development permits and whatnot. And so for us, it was just one of those things where we just wanted to note just how big of a difference it was between us and other municipalities. I'm not too sure if it has to do anything with service level, but just maybe more of the fact that they're just around other municipalities charging the same thing. Yes.
Okay, good question. Any other Questions? No, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, thank you for your presentation, Kundi, and your work on this and trying to align with the land use bylaw. My question has to do with on page 8 of the new bylaw under refusal, suspension, and revocation of business license. 4.30, where a business license is revoked or suspended, the license inspector shall notify the licensee in writing. My question is for the public. If there's a business operating in the community that does not have a business license and has been deemed to be maybe revoked or suspended or hasn't applied for one, what is the mechanism to ensure the public is aware of that so they know it's not a legal, quote unquote, legal business in our community? Is there any publication of that information? Is there a place where they can go for that information? Because if I'm Joe Blow citizen, new business operating, I'm excited about it, but if they're not adhering to the bylaws and the rules of what's going on in the municipality, how am I supposed to know that?
That's a great question. So from our standpoint, that'll be more of an issue of enforcement. So if there is a business that we see is not doing the right thing, so is invalidating our business license by law, and that will come down to us from an enforcement level, shutting down the business, and of course, trying to make sure and spread the word that people are aware that this business has been shut down. Whether that be through us, through our bylaw enforcement officer, or I know at certain times AHS has stepped in to shut down certain businesses that they see unfollowing or unbeing compliant with what they have in standard. Yeah, so that's definitely something for us to sort of figure out process-wise. But then that would definitely involve us clamping down through enforcement, just making sure that people are safe.
So just to follow up, if I
Yeah,
may.
go ahead.
So, I think it's important that we include something in the bylaw that speaks to that. And I'm not necessarily concerned of those that are operating necessarily in, say, stick buildings in our community, because I would think that most would be complying. But we have a lot of random people that come through and are stopped on the side of the road selling things. Do they have a business license? Don't they have a business license? Or scam artists out there like crazy right now? I think it's important for us to have those enforcement mechanisms in place so that if somebody is out there selling watches, as you enter a town where they sell all that stuff, that if they're not in a legal business, that the public is aware of that. So I would really like to see a little clause in there to talk to that, to give us that authority to ensure that the public is aware. In those cases, I went through this. I was actually really impressed. There's a lot of thought that's gone into this, in particular of businesses that may not be complying with other pieces of legislation outside of the municipality that, yes, our inspector can shut them down, or at the request of AHS step in as well. So I do appreciate that. I also like on your, see you have taken the time on the application form to try to collect contact information. I think that's been a piece that's been missing, where if there is something that we need to communicate out to the business community, that we have a contact list or a database. As far as I'm aware, we don't even have a list to contact all businesses on Main Street to let them know snow removal is delayed for a day, right? So these are, I think, simple things that we can do to help improve communications between our organization and our business community. So I'm very happy to see that.
Councilor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the chair, for me. I'm trying to understand what your reasoning behind removing the fees for, I understand charitable not-for-profit, but and farmers market makes sense to me, but dentists, lawyers' offices, pharmacies, doctors' offices, chartered accountant offices, insurance companies, if you had an architect company in town, surveying companies, and engineering, because they are part of a professional act. But what's the reasoning for removing the fees from those? Because there's a lot of businesses in this community. So is there a thought process or a reason, or is there legislation that says we're not allowed to? And just kind of curious what the idea is behind that.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councilor Pisichny. So so through legislature and statutes and acts, we are actually aren't allowed to charge certain businesses fees. So it's actually out of our hands in charging those businesses. And so this bylaw, I just basically pointed out that there are certain fee exempt businesses that do exist and can exist. But then, yeah, but one of the things that we are trying to push forward though, is to still require them to have a business license so that we are just aware of who is within our community. But yeah, that's out of our hands when it comes to charging.
Councilor Chamber.
Through the chair, Kenny, thank you for your presentation. Just a lot of great updates to this bylaw. Of course, I compared it to the previous one and it's like night and day. I have no idea how anybody should go through that last one. It was, yeah, this is a major upgrade. Just a couple of questions going on page 5, under 4.7, a person should not engage in or operate a business at more than their business premises in town unless they have a separate business license. So you need to have a license to operate one place, and if you say you have a business like similar or the same business at another location, you need a separate license to operate there as well. Am I reading that right or understanding that right?
Yeah, so through the mayor to Councilor Taylor. Yeah, from the way that we're looking at it, it all has to do with business premise. So depending on the business premise that's conducting that certain business, we would need a business license for that premise. So even if you are operating a similar such business in another location, we would still require a business license just so that we at least are aware that a business is taking place at that premise.
And
Go ahead.
let's just follow, scan down page. Page 9 under fines and penalties. And according to this new bylaw, the business license inspector would not be appointed by council. Anymore, is that the way I'm reading? He would be appointed then by the CAO. Am I reading that correctly? Just not that I had that. And then when offering fines, it says 5.3 in terms of not less than $100, not more than $250, and then the different levels. How is that calculated? To impose a fine, like if one business has it for, it's a fine for $100 and the next one gets it for $250, what would be the difference? How would you determine that? Like, is it size of business? Is it the type of offense? Is it, how would you,
So through the mayor to Councilor Taylor. So I guess to tackle your second question first.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fines and penalties, so we have up to $10,000 that we charge a business for whatever offense that we see that they've done. And so in determining $100 to $250, that all depends on if it's a first offense or a second offense. So typically for first offenses, it would just be $100. For a subsequent offense, it would be $250. And if that's of a continuing nature, then just continually be charging them that fee. And so when it came to determining that fee exactly, what we did was we just we referred to a bylaw officer, enforcement officer, and asked her, historically, what have we charged and what makes sense. And so she gave us these figures, which were the same as the previous business license bylaw. So that's sort of how we came to determine those prices. And so yeah, in regard to the first question.
it was just more clarification on who then appoints the business license inspector and who that person would be essentially. And I don't know how this process was before, council, am I correct, the council appointed this person? Yeah, it was just peace officers. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, from what we see in the previous bylaw, business license inspector was appointed by council. And so with this one, only change was to make the CAO appoint business license inspector.
Okay. And still be the peace officer, is that what we're saying?
So if I could have the chair, so I think the business license inspector would be the economic development officer, I think, in this case, right? They're responsible for managing this bylaw and the business license system. And then enforcement would be a combination of some with inspector, but also with peace officers or bylaw officers. Because one of the things that Cooney and I talked about this, the problematic To be the economic development officer, it's pretty tough for you to play the policing role, because your job is to promote business and foster good business relations. So having him be also the bad guy isn't necessarily a great look. So certainly involved, but really the bylaw enforcement officer would handle that sort of enforcement role. But the reason for having the CAO appoint this is when staff changes and position change and org change, you know, have to come back to council and get approval to appoint that. And certainly the CAO has the authority to do that.
Thanks for.
Okay, Councillor Ryer.
Thanks, through the chair to administration. So regarding the taxis, it says that that you're not going to deal with it within a business licensing bylaw, but rather through land use. So do they not have to get a business license at all? Or maybe you can explain how that will work?
So through the mayor to council by us, so they would still be required to get a business license. It's just that when it comes to the regulation of those businesses, we just thought we started seeing that a lot of the issues and contradictions between the business license bylaw and land use bylaw pertaining to a lot of these businesses that had to do with land use. And so we just thought it was just better suited if the land use deals with it, but they would still be required to get a business license.
Okay, I'm gonna do a follow-up. Actually, Councillor Taylor was on the same thing. I wanted a clarification where multiple business. So what about the businesses? If their businesses throughout town, they're in snow removal, landscaping. So, you know, that was following up on his where he said if it's multiple businesses. So if I have a coffee shop and I have 5 of them in town, you need 5 different licenses for that? Or can you come in and say, I'm the best coffee in town is the name of my company, I have 5 locations, so I have to pay $500? Or could I get one license and say I'm operating 5 different locations?
Through the mayor to council going on. If you have 5 separate business premises for that business, as it currently stands, yes, then for what we're proposing, yes, we'll be required a business license for each individual business premise.
Okay, the reason I'm bringing that up too, because even where we're proposing charging to me, it's more important to have a business license than to price them out of the market. So right now it's $100 per business. If you get it early, it's $50. So even, do we have a total amount, how much we collect on business license? Like there's approximately, who can do math, there's 600 license times 100. Go ahead, one school teacher, I'm horrible at math.
Sarah told me this earlier a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember what the number was. You remember that? It was, I think right now we're around, honestly, around the third.
I want to say between 30 and 40.
Yeah, something
Okay,
like that,
so
as of right now.
If we're at 30 or 40 doing rough math, that collects an extra 2,000-3,000. And the reason I'm saying that is a lot of home-based businesses, we want to encourage them to get a license, not discourage them. Because some may say, you know what, I'm running a whatever accounting office or whatever small business out of their town. I'd rather know they're there than to price them out of the market. So by increasing the fees, I don't really like that idea. And I'm thinking we want to encourage people if we're doing economical development. If you have a successful restaurant, how about if you open 2 in town, 1 east and west, and just say, okay, if you have 2 locations, identical business, then what would be the harm in saying it's business license, whatever, and you're working at multiple locations? To me, it's more important to get that information than to get the extra $100 on it. So it's just my comment on that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, through to Councilor Chenard's point, I fundamentally disagree. If you have 5 locations, you're making 5 times the revenue, you will pay the extra $400 for the 4 additional businesses you're operating. And it's part of operating business, you have your operating expenses, and if you can't afford an extra $100, you probably shouldn't be in business, to be frank. So I certainly understand the point. You don't want to price them out of the market. We're not asking for thousands of dollars here. And I think one of the things that we see here in the presentation is we are lower than most municipalities. We haven't seen a lot of increases. And I think that we are providing a value-added service in our community now with an economic development department, which was not here before. And I think that's what we're seeing with the land use bylaw and all that work that we're doing. I think there's value here for our business community and that increased communication. you know, I work in a business that has 2 locations in town now, and we're not going out of business because we have to pay another business license. So that's just kind of my point. Cost of doing business. Now, I don't think we should be charging $1,000 business license, but I think we're being reasonable with what's being proposed here.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Councillor Persistence, I believe was next.
Yeah, some municipalities don't have licensing fee and that's their choice, but I will agree with the mayor on this one. It's $100. I bought toner lately. Like to replace the magenta, it cost me $130. So really at the end of the day, the guy chose magenta. Really at the end of the day, it's the bylaw specifically says each site has to put it at the entranceway. So otherwise you're photocopying your license, and really at the end of the day, it's a nominal amount of money. And I do agree with it, and I was actually thinking, I guess the acts prevent us from doing it. I don't think it was fair. The other ones didn't have to pay for it, but I guess there's an act. But really, it's in today's day and age, it's not a lot of money, and we're definitely not gouging people by any stretch of the means.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
if I
go
could,
ahead.
just on the fees, and certainly we're not, you know, it's a balance between charging too much and charging enough to run the program and for it to be viable and whatnot. But for us, we didn't look at it as collecting more money to penalize businesses. It's about building programs as well, right? This revenue, ultimately what we hope to do is with business license revenues to provide grants and programs back to the business community, right? That's what it's for. It's not necessarily just to fill the town coffers. It's to help enhance the economic development portfolio. And so we didn't see the fees as onerous either, based on our research. And the premise thing, just to be clear, every business license bylaw I've seen and been active with has that same clause, so it's not unique to Edson. And obviously, if you're a business that has, let's say a plumber, for example, they have one store location, they pay one business license, but they do work all over town. So they don't need one for every site that you'll see, just where they establish their presence, their price. And if it's multiple, it's more than one.
Oh, I don't know. Go on, Trevor, I'm waiting on you. Councillor Persistence, carry on.
Well, further to that, I'm actually, because I pay a business license every year. And every year I get an invoice for $100, but I pay it early, so I only pay 50, and it really messes up my book. So I'm glad to see that we've removed that system of it, because that drove me nuts. And like, I didn't mind saving the $50, but it didn't bother me to pay the 100. And my business is very, very, very small, so that's why I'm not against the fees. But that whole $50 thing was just like, how do we make that books?
So, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make the point,
Go
that was
ahead.
very cumbersome for our finance department too, like it was very, so that was.
So that's fine.
Well, just a nightmare for administrative.
I'm very happy too.
Oh, it's really crazy. Like,
Keep Councillor Byron in my defense.
discount.
No, through the chair.
Go ahead, I'm kidding.
Through the chair to administration. Regarding the application form and ease of use, is this something that businesses would be able to fill out online and submit electronically, and perhaps also pay online as well?
To the chair, to Councillor Byron. So currently, they actually can pay business license fees online.
Okay.
But it is, so with this form, we do plan to make it as easy as possible. Fillable forms, PDFs that they can just email to us at any given point. They can also just drop in. So yeah, we're just trying to make this as easy as possible for them.
Okay, I'm gonna make a comment since I'm gonna lose this 1-6-1, but I am pleased with the rest of it. So if we're increasing the business license, like Councillor Taylor is, we also want to tell the public, because I'm also very in favor if we're compiling names. So if you're, let's say, in snow removal or something, and they check the correct box, they'll be informed. So if we're increasing it, maybe also let the public know that we are adding to what you're getting, even though I totally agree it's not a hardship if you're in business. The $100 isn't going to break you. It's just a matter of principle. So yes, we're going to increase it, but also tell them we're doing more for you as a business. So, Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair, I like the fee schedule as well. I just like bringing it up to the industry standard and not being well below and still making it fair. That's fine. My question is actually on public engagement session. Is it going to be a session or an open house? Is it a come and go thing, or is it like an all day discussion with a variety of businesses? What is your vision in terms of structuring that meeting?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Taylor. So we're looking at an open house.
Okay.
And yeah, so just invite businesses to come in, to listen, put up some boards for them to read, things for them to take away with, also do, just a count to see how many people actually attend. And just provide them any information that they need, any questions that they may have.
And I'm happy to hear you say it, because getting people to commit to a session is like a nightmare. But if you tell them you only gotta show up for 5 minutes, there's coffee and donuts, that people are more likely to come and give their 2 cents on the process. So thank you.
So just a recommendation, get people there, scare them, it's going up to $1,000 if they don't attend. Lots of people show up mad, because I agree, every time we have an open house or something, nobody shows up.
Wow.
So if you can use your imagination, I would be more than pleased to have people show up and put their input.
Counselor Sherrod wants $1,000 business.
As long as-
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard. Only for the people that are in the
I'm gonna
sign
keep that
business.
right now.
Okay, but your presentation, I totally agree. I do like the changes. It was just, that was my comment. And obviously we make my comment, we got everyone involved, so I'm glad I made the comment. Town manager, because I always can't make the initial, no, but it's called town manager.
Wow.
Yeah, town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanting to touch on, so the fee structure would come back within our fees and charges bylaw. And the next time that you'll see this come back, based on the information we've received tonight, like we will be the next council meeting, which will be October 4th, for approval of the bylaw. And just looking, I just wanted to touch on as far as the efficiencies that you see within the work here. It's interesting when you go through the process of how many areas the one particular process affects. And so what, the work that this came up very early on, I think actually probably the first or second meeting that Mr. Kitlich joined us, just along with the lines of, looking at this bylaw. So, the efficiencies of working through a process, and also, the effects of invoicing back, it goes back to how much it actually takes to cut a check, the cost in doing so. So just those little things are things that we're looking at for efficiencies. So the team did exceptional. Cody did a great job as far as bringing this back, and just exactly in the way that I hoped that the council was going to be satisfied with. So just wanted to bring that.
So with that said, you have enough information to move forward? Mr. Mayor has.
And just one final question on a seasonal business license. I think you mentioned 4 months for a seasonal. And you mentioned snow removal. Is that long enough? Because our snow season is sometimes 5 months. And I guess my concern is I don't want to make it like a gray area, because it might be a little confusing to business. Oh, my business license, do I have to get another one? How would that look? Because I'm sure most of those businesses like to get that in place in November. And sometimes we have a snow season until the end of March, so.
Yeah, so the chair to the mayor, I guess, for such an instance, discretionary powers might come and play where sort of just get an understanding with our business. Because typically, for the seasonal business, there is a provision for those sort of businesses that do come in at a seasonal basis. So, so that's something that definitely can be discussed to sort of understand what exactly we can provide.
Mr. Chair, that might have been maybe a best example, I think. I mean, we talked about this as a team. I think we talked about like food trucks were a great example. The temporary one would be good for something like the fair that came to town for only a week, right? Rather than charging a full business license, so you could get a 1 week one. So I think most snow removal companies probably they do landscaping in the summer and removal in the winter, so they're probably going to get a full year's license anyway. I'm not sure that that would apply to them, but I think we were pretty unanimous on. We thought 4 months was a good target for what a seasonal would be. As soon as you start getting into 5 or 6, well then they can just come and get a prorated license, right? Great. So that was part of the discussion we had around it. That was the best example.
Okay, then.
Cody's not used to these winters here.
But then with that said, I mean, closing arguments, I thought it wasn't about the money, charge them all the same price. If it's not about the money, because if they're in business, $100, so why are we giving them a discount? Everyone pays the same, because it's not about the money. 6 of you told me it wasn't about the money, so leave the rates all the same. Okay, do you have enough information?
I asked that question.
Do you have enough information then?
Yes, I think it's
And council is satisfied with your Concerns? Okay, thank you. Then we will move on. Steve, do we have any, I guess, next thing, questions or comments from the public or media pertaining to this meeting?
Chair, we do have Nikki on the line if she has any questions.
No questions.
Okay, so then we're good. Okay, then we're gonna go into a closed meeting session. All those in favor?
Make the
We have a
motion.
Yeah,
motion.
sorry, make the motion. Mr. Mayor, make the motion. All those in favor?
Yeah, I see.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a
Counselor
motion.
Taylor.
Motion for what?
Motion for adjournment, Counselor Taylor. Okay, all those in favor?
Steve,